special city council meeting today is February the 12th, 2020. At this point, I will ask everyone to please stand, if they're able to do so, to pledge to the flag. All right. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone that's here attending this emergency meeting that we held. Of course, no need to be alarmed. We are simply gathering here today to be able to assure our community that we're doing our best to inform them as well, in conjunction with the school district and the water district as well, and the other agencies that are possibly here. And it makes it easier for us to be able to ascertain funding from FEMA, just in case any type of expenditures that we may have in addressing any type of emergency cases throughout the city. I want to make it very clear that there is no cases that have been declared of coronavirus in the city of Baldwin Park or from the hospitals that are in Baldwin Park as well. So just want to let everyone know. So we're gathered here to be able to receive information. I do want to say this afternoon I attended an actual meeting at St. Francis Medical Center. The actual physician stated that the actual coronavirus itself is more contacted through droplet, and it's not airborne. So that just came around, from my understanding, maybe about 5 or 6 hours ago. So just want to let everyone know. So it's important, again, to make sure that we're not touching, shaking hands, or hugging, or if you are sick, of course, cover your mouth and practice a good hygiene to be able to protect others. And I know it's not only challenging here, I could only imagine in the school, 21 schools with literally hundreds or thousands of students in general. So I want to let everyone know. And I believe that Mr. Daniel Rodriguez will be leading this. At this point, real quick, just want to also acknowledge from the Baldwin Park Unified School District, Mr. Santos, thank you for being here. Dr. Freudian, superintendent, and Dr. Salazar as well. Did I miss anyone else from the school district? Oh, Marina, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for being here today as well. So, and also from the Valley County Water District, we have Mr. Javier Vargas, and also, am I missing anyone else? Planning Commission. Oh, Mr. David Muse, yes. And also, newly appointed former council member, Ms. Marlene H. Garcia. Oh, no, you don't have a middle name. That's right. I forgot. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here, Merlin. All right. So at this point, I'm going to give the actual mic over to our CEO, Ms. Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mayor and members of the City Council and public. Before the City Council tonight is a proclamation of a local state of emergency. As the Mayor touched on, this allows the city to streamline our processes in planning for this outbreak, so that we can be ready. It also will help us in the event that there's monies that can be reimbursed to the city from state or federal agencies. It will allow us to also go through that process. So that is before you tonight, and I know there's a lot of questions of the City Council, but I'd like to have the police chief speak a little bit about what's going on. It's a little bit different than a lot of disasters that we're used to, earthquakes and floods, where the infrastructure is damaged. Here we have a process where the actual problem is that the people and the staffing and are sick and can't go to work. So that's something that I'm meeting with all the staff on daily. Things are changing hourly. We're planning on how to keep the police department and the city running and to staff all of those essential services. So I'll go ahead and let Chief Steve McLean talk about that briefly. Yes,
hold on. Thank you, CEO, Mr. Yahtzee, real quick, forgot to take the roll call. So at this point, we'll ask Clerk Ms. Jean M. Ayala.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco.
He will not be present.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Paul Hernandez.
Present.
And Mayor Manuel Lozano.
Aquí. Excuse me. Here. All right. At this point, I'm going to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco. That is my motion.
Second.
Second, any objections? See none, so moved. Want to also, real quick, also acknowledge Ms. Deanna Robles that just walked in from the Ballpark Unified School District. Righty. All right, so at this point, we'll go ahead and give the mic over to Mr. Steve McLean, our police chief. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
First thing I want to do is I want to assure the public that all the stakeholders have been meeting nonstop. In the last 24 hours, the amount of information that has been coming in and as fast as it has been coming in has really been crazy. Since this morning, I've been at one meeting with all the chiefs of police in San Gabriel Valley. We sent Daniel Rodriguez over to the county this morning, and he'll give an in-depth briefing. But I want you to know that we're in contact and coordinating with all the stakeholders. For example, I've spoken to the superintendent just twice just today. So I think it's important to know that we are communicating. The department heads have been meeting all week. We just came from a meeting. And so with that, I would like to call up and commend Daniel Rodriguez, who's been running to all the county meetings. He'll come up and get a basic briefing. Currently, we're working on a coronavirus response plan. And like I said, the information that's coming in is dynamic and it's fluid. So I'm hoping by Monday we'll have a specific coronavirus response plan that will address all the questions that you have. And for those of you who want information, I'd like to refer you to the city website and to the LA County publichealth.gov. Any question that you would have regarding the coronavirus will be on those websites. It is your best source for information. So I encourage you to go to those websites. Thank you, Daniel.
So good evening, Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of City Council. So I just want to give you a little recap with regards to the proclamation that you guys have in front of you. And as the mayor mentioned, this proclamation is truly to making sure that we're in line with what Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management has done, and ultimately what the governor of the state of California have done. So the governor obviously declared a state of emergency. The county supported the LA County Department of Public Health emergency, and basically things have been unfolding by the day. So after today's Area D, the Disaster Management Emergency Committee meeting that we had, and for those of you that do not know DMAC or would like to know a DMAC, we have a Disaster Management Area Coordinator that's in charge of the 22 cities in the San Gabriel Valley. And basically, that's our liaison between the county and then between the county and the state, or the operational area of the state. So with that said and done, we have been meeting probably the last 3 days, the executive team and myself, in creating policy and creating plans and figuring out where we go and what we need to do. But after today's meeting that I went to today, it was highly recommended that we consider declaring a local state of emergency so that we're not on the back end, and that we can basically speed up whatever processes, procurement processes, and things that we need to track and monitor for potential reimbursement in the future. So as of yesterday afternoon, the chief and I have been working, brainstorming together. As of today, we have assigned the chief of police, myself, and Officer Jim Izzo are the 3 duty officers that will be monitoring this situation from here on out. Our EOC that was normally set up in our police station is going to be relocated to the ARC Center on the 2nd floor boardroom conference room. And the reason for that is there's AV technology there, there's conferencing there, there's proper facilities there, and it's an area that is away from everything, where we can focus on the response and recovery and the public awareness for all of our residents. And then lastly, we did a large campaign with pushing out information on all city websites, the city's website, the police department's website, the social media. And what we're asking residents to do, and we're going to be updating that today, is we're asking residents to download the app, the CDC app on your phone, both for Android and Google Play, as well as the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health app. Both of those you can subscribe to and get real-time information on. Because I know right now you're reading a lot of things and a lot of different sources and websites and things that are coming on. This is direct and first-hand knowledge information that is coming through. And then in the days to come and over the weekend, we're going to be preparing an operation plan and a plan of action for a pandemic, as well as specifically to address the coronavirus. So with that said and done, if council has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Or if the audience has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer whatever I can answer.
All righty. Well, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for taking the opportunity. Chief, as well, for being proactive in addressing some of the issues, and of course, that would concern and safeguard our community. The question that I had, so what is the county, of course, I guess the governor did hear this afternoon, was what, no meetings more than 250 or gatherings or something to that effect. It's the recommendation.
That was his recommendation, yes.
Okay.
And from my professional opinion in emergency management, I have a feeling come Monday, it's going to be all events, no matter if it's 5 or 10 people, only because of how this has been unfolding by the minute. New York has activated the National Guard. Things are changing by the moment, and there's been some rumor that they're looking to lock down different borders. They're looking to lock down all operations sooner than later for approximately a 2-week period has been a rumor. Again, it's just a rumor. But these are things that we just have to be ready for, and we have to have that plan of action or that contingency plans in place. And that's something that we're working on with Shannon, the chief, HR, and all the executive team.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it. At the same time, also, we don't want to send a panic notice to the community. It's important. Working at a hospital, and of course, I mean, you go through so much different type of training. Of course, this is brand new, so everyone is learning as we go on. But reassure our community that we're not in a panic stage. I mean, individuals that are going through these markets and buying off the toilet papers can't figure out why, but nevertheless, I mean, they're just things that we need to take and deliver the message in a professional way and in a calm way, as opposed to being reactionary about anything, because we don't want this community to partake in that type of scenario, because this is not, it's when you make errors and when issues arise that it could be critical to our community. So you want to make certain that when we are sending the messages out, that we're not doing it in a panic motion.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Yeah, the way that I see this is, we have our public health in the city of Baldwin Park, and we have our public safety. And I'm glad that you are at the forefront of that and in constant communication. And thank you for the updates. We've been receiving them for a few months now. So, thank you for that. And so I do have confidence that we are working within the channels, of the county. And then, the state has now become more active. So I definitely see that there is the public health, public safety aspect. But, one of the concerns that I recently expressed was in the city, we offer programs where, we were planning our State of the City address. And what I'm seeing is, as you mentioned, Daniel, there are institutions that are major institutions, and they're just shutting everything down. And because, there are mass numbers that gather for, some of these events. We don't have those numbers here, but I do think that just to be overly cautious, and because there's an opportunity to get ahead of this right now and to be very preventative, I want to know, and I'd like us to have a conversation here amongst all of us, if we should go ahead and just suspend our programs, as much as I would hate to do that, because I know that our residents will love the programs, but just for public health's sake and to be very preventative, doesn't make sense to shut down, our programs for 2 weeks. I'm hearing, like the universities have done that. I'm hearing LUSD may do that, beginning over the next couple of days. And so then that leads me to the question of, how are we also in communication with our school district, and any cases or any potential cases that could be happening within our school district? Because I don't know if it's a rumor, but I understand that there were some children who returned to school after being quarantined for 14 days. And so I don't know, it's important to know, like, what's actually happening in our community, working with the school district, working with, other public agencies within our city, not panicking, right? Just keeping the communication flowing more than anything.
Yeah.
So I would look at, like, what programs, do we want to suspend? And then also, what are some of the protocols that we're following internally here within our organization? So we have a lot of outward-facing staff, we serve the public here. So what are some of the protocols, for preventative measures with them? I mean, are there any specific equipment, that is being considered? Or, like, I think, Shannon, you mentioned when somebody shows up sick or with some symptoms, like, how are we responding to that immediately?
So to answer your question, and they're all very good questions, we did not come here today. It was very difficult to even be here today to actually make that recommendation to declare a local state of emergency, only because we wanted not to create any panic. And we're not creating panic. It's just we want to be at a preparedness stage. After the meeting that I went to today and the county made the recommendations they made, the prior meetings that we had with Shannon and the executive team, we just really took it day by day. And we were really wanting to see what was happening, what was unfolding. And those were some of the things that we discussed with some of the events yesterday, the day before, and even today as well. So those in general, and Shannon can correct me if I'm incorrect, but those in general, some programs may have to be canceled, but there's also some programs that we're going to look at and see what happens on a day-to-day basis, and not letting it also extend for a long time. For example, if we have a rental in the city and it's a wedding reception and they have 150 people, we don't know where their guests are coming from. So we have to also take that into consideration as well. So some of the internal components of what we're planning to do and what we have in the works is we're preparing packet of information that would be disseminated in addition to what we've already sent internally to all of our employees. So all department heads are going to be responsible to do a tailgating meeting come Monday and Tuesday with all their employees, just letting them know what we're doing, what preventative measures we're taking, and how we're helping them as well. And not only is this for full-time staff, but this is also part-time staff, as needed staff. So we're looking at all the staff across the board, and then we'll look at adjusting those policies and procedures as we feel fit that would best benefit the interest of the city.
And I can just add a few things to that. As far as rumor control, we're trying to keep right on top of that. Daniel and I have been told by the health department that if there's any case in Baldwin Park, I will personally be the first one to know before the media or anybody else. So that means the city council is going to be the next people to know. So, we're also in direct communications daily with Froylan and the school district. As far as the city facilities, this room, public counters, public counters are being sterilized daily. Meeting rooms like this before and after meetings. We do have special equipment to be able to do that. We have enough supplies to be able to do that. And then we've been sending out messages to our staffing over the last few weeks. And again, as the chief and Daniel have said, things are changing by the hour. So we're actually going to be updating that over time. And what we're doing is we're referring people, and a lot of questions that you get we recommend you refer people to the CDC website because it tells you exactly what to do. They have a list of different professions that you're in and what you can do for that profession. We don't give medical advice. We're not doctors. So, but if you go on those websites, it talks about the social distancing, canceling trips like cruise ships, obviously, not shaking hands, washing your hands for 20 seconds with hot soap and water, covering your mouth when you sneeze, washing your hands immediately, disposing of that tissue. So those are the things that we're referring people to, including our staff. We've had staff that we've asked, if you're sick or coughing, please stay home. We're working closely with HR on policies, and to be prepared, a lot of this right now is just to be prepared, to have things in place, and this resolution gives us the power to do those things, to institute, if we need to, a telecommuting policy for non-essential staff. If their kids' schools close and they need to stay home, we can allow them to telecommute to take the burden off them. So there's various things that we're looking at, being very flexible with the staff. We need to keep the city essential operations running, but we also need to be flexible with the staff and their time and their work hours.
Shannon, I have a question. I know we're talking about that you're sending out the information via social media, or they can log on the website. We have a lot of seniors that don't have access to the website or don't even know how to log on to the website. So how are we getting that information out to them? What are we going to do to make sure that they're informed since they don't have the access? Also, I'm sure we can discuss this with time. What are we going to do if something was to happen with our homeless population? How are we going to handle that situation since they will be out and about? There are really no place for them to be contained. So those type of questions and conversations, I would like more information on.
So let me start, because Daniel can add more, and I think Manny can add more, but they are giving information out to the seniors. We've taken the CDC posters in, is it 5 languages? And
Four
we're putting
languages.
languages, and
Yes.
we're posting those throughout our facility in all of the areas. We're actually probably going to recommend that we close the senior center, although we're working on a program to convert the lunch program to meals.
On Wheels?
A
By
delivery
Wheels?
program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so a
Wheels.
delivery program. And the reason for that is because when you go to the CDC website, it says seniors are recommended to stay home. This coronavirus is affecting seniors. The CDC is recommending that they stay home and that they not go out and socialize. So we don't want to create an atmosphere that encourages them to come to get together and socialize. So we're actually talking about probably doing that in the next day or two.
Okay, I know also the Women's Club's going to be having an event sometime next week. Will that include them as well?
Yes, the Women's Club actually reached out to myself and the chief and invited us to their dinner reception. So we do have that on our schedule. We'll be doing a presentation there, taking literature. In addition to that, starting Monday, the chief and myself will be visiting any and all long-term, short-term care facilities, caring homes, houses, and how we compiled that list is we went to the business division on the second floor, and anyone who registered or paid for a license, which there was a list of about, I believe it was about 10, maybe a few less or a few more. So we're going to plan on personally visiting each and every one of those locations that would be the highest prone to get them the information, printed information, and those that are tech savvy, then we could assist them with getting that on social media or internet or et cetera. So that was a plan of action that we've been working on this week.
And what can you tell me about the homeless population? How are we going to get the information to them?
So with regards to the homeless population or the homeless program, Los Angeles County Department of Public Health has a task force that is going around, and they've assessed this task force through LASA, and basically they're going around and they're doing the community outreach and engagement, because they're also LA County OEM had a mandate to find something along the lines like 2,000 homes, I believe, or temporary housing for the homeless population, being the fact that they're one of 3 highest prone that can basically contain, or that can get this virus and then spread it as well. So again, we felt that it'd be best to basically leave that up to LA County Public Health at this time, since they already had a task force in place and they've been taking the lead on it.
And so do we know when they're going to be out in this area? They're tasked to inform our homeless population. It's a very large population, so just curious on when they'll be out here.
I do not know that, and I should have asked that question, but
We can
I will,
try to
I
find
will
out.
ask that tomorrow and find out.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
All right, at this point, Councilmember Hernandez, Vice Mayor Hernandez.
Thank you. I appreciate a lot of the information that you provided, Daniel, and again with the chief and everything else. One thing I would ask is, as you're creating the EOC, is to also add a seat, if or make available, extend an offer to the school district, considering a lot of population or young population there exists for us. One of the things that I am concerned with is, as we discuss about closing programs and so forth, especially on the school district, and our colleagues over there will certainly know this, is it creates a massive daycare issue, which then trickles down to the parents who then have to stay home. That many of them, if you look at our geographics and our makeup of our community, these sometimes are not necessarily have extended, paid leave situations. So we certainly want to make sure that we're looking at that and working with them together. I know in the past when LAUSD did have the bomb scare about a year or 2 years ago, that became a very big, significant issue. I know the city was able to open up the rec and parks and do something like that differently. And my understanding is also the city of Los Angeles is not closing down their senior centers at this time, even as of early as today. And I believe that's also the same case with LA County OEM. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Perfect. Again, I would ask for each of us to kind of look at this, and rely on our staff to kind of look at this on a day-to-day basis, because this is very a fluid incident. I understand the concerns and everything that we're hearing in the news and the media, because if you look at the pictures on social media and everything else, there's a whole run of individuals, thousands of people showing up at Costco in the mornings for water and toilet paper, which, again, amazes me. But, our water is clear, and there's other ways of cleaning ourselves if we have to in those dire circumstances. But again, I would just ask that, we look at, creating also a unified message with our colleagues from the school district and also with the water districts. One thing that I'd like for us to all have is basically one unified message across the board. So whatever each of us push out through our own individual social medias, along with our colleagues that are outside, it's one consistent message with various resources. So that way there's no mixed signals going across the board for us. And that's, we certainly have a staff member, or we have a consultant that can certainly help us with that. That could help us with that's going on with there. And with that, we'll just kind of continue on.
To address that, very good points, and I think Shannon could chime in on this. Well, first, with regard to the school district and our stakeholders, our public utilities, we've been in contact with them. Very close contact myself personally with Michelle, the COO at Kaiser, and her folks there. Edison today reached out to me after I sent them an email asking them what their continuity of operations was. So they reached out to us, and later on today I will be sending the council. They created a direct number inside line only for elected officials and council members for this particular incident, and I'll share that with all of you that I just got this afternoon at about 4:30. So I'll share that with you. And then to answer your question regarding the school district, we actually have a task force meeting next Wednesday with the school district, myself, the chief, and Shannon. So we'll be in attendance with them. And with regards to all sending out the same message, internally, that's what the E-team decided to ultimately do, where we're creating one memo with all directors, everyone's initial, everyone's sending out the same message so that we're all very transparent, but also someone from the third floor doesn't come down to the first saying, I heard this or I heard that. It's one memo, one packet. It's a tailgate kind of meeting, And basically, one message is very important. Streamlining that process is extremely important. So thank you very much, Councilmember Hernandez, or Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez.
Appreciate that. One other thing, too, is if we could work with HR to also remind our staff that they are DSWs,
Yes.
disaster service workers, and what that means to them. Because, again, we certainly want to be mindful of folks and the illness and things of that nature, but we also need to make sure that we have the appropriate staff or the most essential staff needed as we either gear up, gear down, however the case may be on a day-to-day basis. So that's something very important for all of us. And as Councilmember Garcia mentioned, the flex staff, as we look at the continuity operation planning, what does that look like not only for us, but for our part-time staff members, right? If we were to, shut down some of these programs or whatever the case may be, what are we going to do with those staff? Obviously, I think Shannon mentioned earlier to me that we would be shifting folks over because, again, this also then becomes an economic hit to individuals, and I'm very concerned about that because people need to make rent, people need to make their car payments. Just because we have this, excuse me, this novel event going on, those payments do not stop, unfortunately.
Yes.
So we want to make sure about that.
Yes, and to answer that question, that was a question that did come up with the E-team, and that is something that we plan not to stop. We need all hands on deck, whether you're part-time or as needed. If we don't have something for you here, we can use you elsewhere. So you may be teaching an arts program, but the next day you may be putting paper in the copier. You know what? We need those staff. So whether you're part-time staff is going to be very essential for us during this time. So that is something that we all did talk about. Disaster service workers is under the California Civil Code. And for those of you in the audience that are unaware of that, disaster service worker in a nutshell is any employee that receives or is paid by a public entity is required to continue operating, whether it's here or whether it's in their city because they can't get here. They still have to contribute one way or another to the public municipality. So whether if someone lives in Rancho Cucamonga and they can't get here, they can check in at Rancho Cucamonga with the city, and therefore their time will still be paid and compensated accordingly. But it's a mandate, not by the city, it's a mandate by the state of California Civil Code that they're declared a disaster service worker. So that is a great point, something that I completely forgot. But we will include that information in the literature we're putting out to everybody on Monday, and that would be on the front page of that.
All right, thank you.
I
Go
could-
ahead.
in-
Yes, Councilmember Alejandra Avila, go ahead.
I also want to add that the school district has been really good at sending out information to all the employees regularly, so we're constantly being informed, also to our families. So information has been sent out, and I know Daniel has been in communication with the school district, but I would like to hear from the school district as well to see what else they would like to add and give us information on, please.
We've been first of all, good evening, Mayor, council members, and thank you for inviting us here. I do want to thank Chief McLean, Mr. Yauzi, and Daniel Rodriguez, who have all reached out to me to make sure the district has been involved in everything that we're doing. So we have regularly been involved in telebriefings at least 2 or 3 times a week with the Los Angeles County Office of Education, along with members of the Department of Public Health. And so anything that we do is based off of the guidance that we're receiving from them. So what we are doing now is taking some precautionary measures, just making sure that our community understands that we are doing everything possible to ensure their health and safety. For instance, what we're doing right now in the school district, we're making sure that we are doing our regular cleaning, making sure that we're disinfecting on a daily basis in terms of our classrooms, and making sure that we are looking at high-touch areas, lights, water fountains. We're looking at computer keyboards and such. And then we are also purchasing equipment so that we can do deep disinfection on a weekly basis. So those are some of the preventative aspects that we're doing in the school district. But we are also, based off of the guidance that we're getting from the Los Angeles County Office of Education, we are taking some steps to take preventative measures in terms of large gatherings, looking at open houses, we're looking at assemblies, we're looking at field trips that may be going to areas that may be considered a hazard or a concern. So we've already sent out a memo indicating that we are, canceling or postponing those particular events. For instance, we were supposed to have the BPUSD showcase, and we knew that it was going to rain, and more likely than not, we would have been inside the gym with about 500 to 800 people. At that point in time, we made an executive decision to postpone the BPUSD showcase. So we are doing quite a few things, and what we would like to continue to do is to collaborate with the city to make sure that we are all on the same page as we do our messaging. And I'm just glad that you are having this meeting and continuing to reach out to the district so that we can make sure that we are sending out the same message.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pruitt. And any
Mayor.
Councilmember Monica Garcia.
I just want to go back and talk about the city programs. I do see this as a really critical time for getting ahead of, what potentially could be in our community. And so I really want us to think about suspending some of these programs, and I hate to see that because I know how much our seniors love their monthly lunches and their dances, but this is in their best interest. This is, they are a very vulnerable population with regard to the coronavirus. And so I do feel that right now would be the time. If we were going to take any action like this, let's do it right now, because it's preventative, right? And we're seeing different institutions respond. Like you said, Daniel, every day there's a new development. And so I feel like if we're going to take any, drastic action, let's do it now while we're still ahead of all of this. And then we can see where we are in a couple of weeks, see where, where the county is, a state, nation. But I really do feel strongly that we should suspend these, group programs. And it does, I say that because it does, I don't want to do that. But of course, I want to put public health and public safety ahead of anything here. And I think that it's serious enough. I agree that we shouldn't send any panic. And if we are going to be adopting this state of emergency ordinance, I think that we need to look at how we package this and communicate it so that people don't go into a panic, so that they know why we're doing these things. And it's all for preventative measure right now. And then we can also perhaps communicate this. I mean, it would be nice if David Vela was part of this effort.
He actually is on the internet listening. I asked him to listen in so that he could help us prepare a press release immediately. Great. So he is on the line.
Yes, because I do think that, getting the word out to the public through, like you said, social media, our website, our whatever channels we have here at the city, including the newsletter. I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to have a special newsletter, but I think it would be appropriate. And again, to really communicate why the city is doing this. The reason why the city is doing this is not so that everybody can go out and panic and, it's not doomsday. It's really to prepare the city so that, should we need to pursue resources, that it's at our disposal. And people just should know that. I think David could help us with, communication in collaboration with all the agencies. And I think that the community would also like to see that there are different messages from the city. Well, the same message, right? But coming from the city, coming from the school district, coming from the water agency. because everybody's running out and getting bottled water. And, it'd be nice for the water agency to also step in and to say, we want to reassure you that our water is in good supply and, and it's clean and it's drinkable and all of that, right? So again, it's all of that. It's like packaging the communication so that we don't promote the panic. But I really would like us to consider suspending these programs for 2 weeks.
Well, first of all, I think that if we are, as was mentioned earlier, you have the city of Los Angeles still has their various recreational facilities still open. I think maybe giving our seniors at least a week, sometime next week, allowing them to kind of take that in. They're dependent upon that senior citizen center on an everyday basis, Monday through Friday. So it's like a secondary home for them. But I definitely realize what you're saying. I think for us, so that we communicate it to them in the process, Manny Carrillo, somehow, so that they're able to at least comprehend. And then everyone knows about it. It's all over the TV media and so on and so forth. Is somehow deliver that message to them in such type of manner so that they understand why the city, as you mentioned right now, the preventative measures that we're taking to be able to secure and safeguard all our seniors as well. So, Manny, what suggestions would you have, sir? I mean, how many seniors gather up there to eat breakfast and lunch? Because I've been, it's always packed.
For the lunch program, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, we have approximately 75 participants to 100 on a daily basis. And we have folks in the pool, the weight room, right, the billiards area, the ping pong area, arts and crafts. We have adult school district programs at the senior center as well. So in one particular room, we probably have up to 75 people in one specific room at one time.
So it's definitely going to be a major hit for the seniors that are so accustomed to being there. And I've spoken to some of them who tell me this is their home. This is their secondary home. I realize, I think that we need to figure out a way to be able to deliver the message and explain to them, obviously, what's transpiring, and then I guess consider the 2-week closure of the facility to see where the actual coronavirus is at that specific time.
Mayor?
Yes.
I agree with Ms. Garcia, and since our seniors are the most vulnerable and they are at our community center, at all those facilities, and although we say, or Los Angeles has not shut down any of the facilities, we shouldn't necessarily wait to see what Los Angeles is doing. The mayor of Seattle went on and spoke last night that if they wouldn't have waited so long to do exactly that, maybe the spread of the corona wouldn't have been so hardly hit there in Seattle. So taking preventative measures like this, and again informing the community the reason why, like Ms. Garcia said, so that they're not in a panic. I'm sure they'll appreciate it more that we are doing this because we are doing it to protect them. So I couldn't agree with her more.
Yeah, and I think that if so, then why don't we allow that at least to continue on all the way up to next week? And then from there, deliver the message either maybe Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, and then the following week thereafter, then go into the 2-week period that's been suggested.
Can we ask our director about his thoughts on that?
That's what I'm referring.
Yeah, it's a very delicate situation because I realize as a city we want to try to help control this epidemic, but a lot of the seniors at our facilities rely on the social interaction as well as a hot meal at the facility. Okay. So it's a very difficult situation. I'd also like to bring to the council's attention that we are having reservations at the facility. For example, tomorrow we have a 200-plus
services
reception for a funeral, and on Saturday we have a 80th birthday party. Mm-hmm. So we do have a facility sometimes operating 7 days a week, and we do have staff going in to disinfect and everything else. But we have commitments to the community as rental. So if that should change down the road, we would need to give our residents some time to find an alternative facility and or location.
Thank you. Again, just to continue with this conversation, are we also looking at postponing also the youth programming, or are we just looking at the senior programming?
I think it's all encompasses that, because if it's part that takes place in the community center,
Then there's, I mean, we
That's
have to
why-
think about,
Exactly.
we have to think about this a lot deeper than just the seniors, because again, we have, you know, as our director and others have mentioned, you know, we have a segment of our population that are less likely to be affected by this, right? That use this facility on a daily basis and all the way into the evening. So again, my concern is, you know, what are we going to do with them, or what alternatives are we going to do with them? If it's for a short period of time, I understand that, and I'm open to that discussion. But again, you know, sometimes, you know, not taking action is sometimes the best action. I'm not saying that is the case right now, but it is something that we should think about, because again, you know, I know some of our neighboring cities have taken some of this action. As of yesterday or today, I think there was 2 local cities. So you know, there is a valid argument to do that. You know, if we're looking for a short period of time, you know, I'm open to that discussion. But again, I would like to also make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, we give our directors the opportunity to make that decision as we're going forward on this on a day-to-day basis. Because again, what we're talking about today might look a lot different from a week from now. And of course, you know, we could certainly take those steps. And then, and with regards to Seattle, that is a whole different situation there, in which they're facing. There's a completely different situation than what we're looking at. You know, considering the number of affected individuals in a population of 11 million people, you know, the numbers do not compare from us to them. And hopefully we don't get anywhere near there.
That's the idea. We don't want it to
But
compare.
again, that's all based on the travel of individuals. That has nothing to do with, you know, what we're doing necessarily to some degree. So again, you know, I just want to be very clear. Are we talking about all of the programs that we're working, that are facilitated there? And are we also looking at everywhere else in our programs? Because again, we're taking this action, and, you know, we have other institutions that are still active, right? So are we also asking for those other institutions to also take similar actions? Because then really, we're not really doing anything unless it's a unified, unless it's unified.
I have a question, Mr. Mendoza. Are the sporting events still happening at our school district?
We're still getting guidance from CIF in
Okay.
regards to that, but what I'm hearing out there is they may still do the sports without spectators.
Okay. Okay, so that's another thing, because we do collaborate. We do have after-school sports through our city at your schools. For right now, example is football season, and there is a lot of spectators when, for example, at the elementary schools, the parents come here to the park to watch the game. So that's why if we collaborate with the school district, so when that decision is made at your level, because it is your students that are playing at our park after school, so we can be working together and doing that at the same time.
Absolutely,
That would be beneficial.
and that goes along with the facilities use permit, and I think that's basically what Manny was kind of talking about in terms of even with the city. So we were going to have to take a look at that in regards to further guidance from DPH, and hopefully they'll provide us with some clear guidance. And we're holding fast to the guidance that we're getting from LACO and also DPH, so that if there are any questions whatsoever in regards to what we're doing, we can always back it up with the guidance that we're getting. And just to, I was just speaking to Daniel really quickly in regards to the length of time. Just because we're suspending and postponing particular events, that doesn't mean that it's forever. What we've indicated in our memo is that that we would continue to do this until the end of spring break, which would be April 19th. And at that point in time, we can continue to assess the situation to see whether or not we can pull back on some of these things that we've already put in place.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Mayor, if I could just
Yes, go
address
ahead.
the youth services and just let you know the discussions that we've been having, because we've been talking about that, and each of those programs is a little bit different. And we're really looking at the guidance that's coming from the health department and the governor right now, and the guidance and recommendation is for for gatherings upwards of 250 people. So a lot of the classes, we have arts and craft classes, dance classes at this point. We didn't plan on, those are small groups. We didn't plan on discontinuing those at this point.
And I think that about the 250, I mean, if you look at the seniors, if there's 75, there's not 250. It's not even close. I don't think there's no area from within that, from in the center where they're all gathered in one specific area. So, and as Vice Mayor Paul Hernandez had mentioned, I mean, it's going to literally affect a lot of different areas there, as our youth and what have you. So, I at this point, I simply will say maybe allow it for 1 week and assess it and see what the county and the country is like as far as addressing this particular coronavirus and kind of go from there.
And I think by the middle of next week, we'll know if we'll have the meal delivery set up and ready to go.
I mean, in other words, of course, we're going to take whatever action we need to be able to assist the community, and that's the biggest concern. I mean, we're not clinicians here, so obviously we get stuff from the media, but being able to kind of look at it and at least give it another week and just kind of assess and evaluate, and then move forward from there, from that point. I mean, schools, I mean, classes are being held. I mean, I know some colleges and so on and so forth, they've reverted to online classes. I mean, but it's a whole different perspective from the colleges versus the local unified school districts. So, I mean, you got hundreds and hundreds or thousands of students. I mean, 21 schools. How many students are they in total in the unified?
We're at around 11,500 now.
Wow, 11,000. So let's think about that. They're in classrooms. I'm not trying to set an example, but I'm just kind of saying again. There's a large congregation of students as well, and if you're looking at the various entities that provide you general information through the county, I understand that part, but I'm just using it as a suggestion. Sorry about that, Councilmember Monahan.
I've heard that some institutions were initially looking at a certain size of congregation, like, okay, we recommend that any events above X number of people attending should be canceled, and then that came down to like 25, and then some of these institutions like Cal State, Long Beach, LA, USC, UCLA, they just decided, let's just shut this down. They no longer were working off of the number of attendees. They just decided, let's just eliminate this and do the telecommuting, right? And so as I see that happening more and more, I mean, we're seeing unprecedented, institutions suspending their operations, like, the hockey, NBA, March Madness, all these institutions. And this tells me that it's very serious. Now, you're right, we don't have that mass, and that's what I mentioned earlier. We don't have the mass gathering that you would have at these places, but watching their thinking, their kind of, how they went down from 25 now to nothing, that signals something to me. And but I hear what you're saying, because I do agree that for those seniors that depend on our programs, what I would ask is if we could identify like the essential versus non-essential programs for seniors and youth, and maybe we can start looking at it that way, and then maybe for the essential programs where seniors do depend on the city to provide those meals, how we would substitute that with the Meals and on Wheels program, if it is viable. And if it's not viable, then that's part of the conversation too. I think what we're looking for are just, what are real viable considerations here. And when I say, any suspension, I'm talking about a couple of weeks, because we do have, in our community, we do have people that have traveled, I'm sure, we don't know who's traveled in and out of the country. We don't know who has been exposed, and and so there's no way of us knowing or controlling that. And so I'm just trying to prevent any any exposure or breeding opportunities, right? But as far as the cities in the area, I wanted to ask, what cities?
West Covina.
West Covina. What cities and what have they done?
So the cities that I have heard about that have shut down pretty much all of the facilities, community or senior center, and I think staff and Daniel can add to this, Diamond Bar, San Dimas, El Monte, West Covina, and am I missing any?
Arcadia just closed up.
But it's happening. I mean, I just got the text about San Dimas an hour ago, so it's happening as we're sitting here.
Exactly. Yeah, because go ahead.
So they are taking those preventive measures because they don't want anything to happen to their residents, and I think that is the point Ms. Garcia is trying to make here. We don't want to compromise anybody, so we wouldn't hurt anybody, especially the seniors, by shutting down maybe the senior activities for a time being until we go get more information, because if I remember correctly, you said maybe by Monday the number of people that can gather may change to 5 or 10. Things are changing on an hourly basis pretty much, correct? So by putting these preventive measures in place for our seniors, which are the most vulnerable at this time, I think will help us maybe start with that if all possible.
And maybe a compromise is to try to get this meal program up by maybe Tuesday or Wednesday next week, and once we get that, we have a better assessment on what's going on, and we can make that decision.
Yeah, and I think so. I think that would be best for us to be able to assess and evaluate and kind of determine. Well, we have a city council next week, my correct, Wednesday. So maybe we could look at that during study session and go from there.
Have some recommendations.
Yes, and again, certainly you want to do what's best. I mean, what hospitals are doing, they're literally asking you prior to going in, have you traveled within the past 10 days? Have you, or if you're coughing, they'll give you a face mask and so on and so forth, whatever the case may be. It's just kind of hard. It's almost like self-reporting, so you regardless, you're gambling everywhere. I mean, right in this part, in this room as well. So we have to also remember that it's almost an impossible type of task. But I understand the preventative measures. There's no doubt they should be, and they are universal. But
things, we're monitoring things. They're changing daily. So if the order comes out this weekend to close every facility, this is the resolution. If you pass this, it allows us to go ahead and do that and comply with that order without having to bring it back to you on Wednesday. So we'll be monitoring it, and if we need to take that action, we can.
All right, sounds good. All right, so at this point,
one last thought, Mayor, for the seniors that I know, a lot of our seniors come from, like, you know what I'm talking about, Manny, the different senior housing, right? This different senior housing, and so. Maybe if there's any idea that we could, like an assessment that we can make of how many seniors that come to our center are from those housing, units, developments, and how many would be outside of those housing developments, because that would also factor into the meal delivery, right? It makes it more sustainable, more efficient.
I think in regards to the meal delivery, Intervale, which is the agency that we contract out with via Los Angeles County, they will have an answer for us by Tuesday or Wednesday. It appears that they are going to be able to provide a frozen meal. So then it would be our responsibility to make sure we get the meal to the senior, and or the senior, if they're healthy and able, they could come pick it up at the facility. So we could do something of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it would help just to be able to, figure out like the addresses of these seniors. I'm sure we have a lot of that information available to us to see if they belong to any one of these, like GNK or Teleku, or you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
So it makes it more viable. It makes it more sustainable for us to be able to deliver a program like that, right?
Yes.
All right.
I have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
So you said we were providing the information to our seniors. Is this at the senior center, or are we taking this information to the senior homes, to the facilities where they're housing seniors?
Okay,
Like
so
across the street right here, are we
so-
taking that information there?
So that's going to be both locations. So currently, there's information at the senior center. However, on the business listing on rest homes and convalescent homes, there's 13 in the city, and those 13 are the 13 that the chief and I plan to visit personally and provide both handouts in Spanish, English, and Chinese. And these are hard copy handouts that we're looking to take there. And if we're able to gather in a group and do a little presentation, then we will do that and provide them whatever information and resources we can.
What about like Telecu right here across the street? That's a senior, there are senior homes there and all of the other facilities that we have of that senior housing, not necessarily rest homes, but it's senior housing.
Yeah, that's actually on my list of the 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. At this point, I will go ahead and open up the public communication. Anyone wishing to speak on this subject is welcome to do so. Good evening, Ralph.
How are you?
Right, real good.
I just wanted, I was in attendance to the Board of Directors meeting on Monday to the Valley County Water District, and General Manager Jose said that the water that we have that comes from the Valley County Water District is safe, it's reliable, so it's okay to drink. I drink from the tap, so I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware and as a reminder to the community. Thanks.
Thank you for saying that, Ralph. Appreciate that. I love that foggy water, and I still drink it. It's the best. Seriously, it is. It really is. I was at Costco's. This is funny, and I couldn't believe how many the carts just full of waters and everything's like what, and the foggy water in Ballpark is good. That's all I have to say.
And
Okay.
Mayor, goes,
Everybody prepares differently, so
Yes,
just leave them alone.
No, I understand, but the water coming out of those pipes are safe.
Mayor, if I could add one point.
Ooh. Oh, Chief, sorry about that.
Councilmember Avila brought up a very good point. Not everybody has computers. Not everybody has access to computers. Some people can't afford computers. But unfortunately, every one of us has a utility bill. And so what I did in my last job, for example, we had a rash of burglaries, and so we sent out on our utility bill, don't be a victim, lock your cars. So I envision something as simple on our utility bills is learn more about coronavirus, how to protect your family, and just a website. Everybody gets a utility bill, and everybody's got to open that bill. Yeah. Something that simple, just add to all our other social media.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that the Valley County Water District has done that before. That maybe that's something they could.
yes, we're able to do that both on the trash and the water bills.
Oh, that's right. Waste
We'll-
management.
we'll-
All right, so let me go ahead and
Last thing,
continue
if
on.
we
Anyone
may.
wishing to speak, let me just close up on the subject. Coming
There's
up,
another-
yes, absolutely. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Candace Perez, and I'm a resident. And I gotta believe, I agree with Monica Garcia and everything she's been saying, and you guys are just all shutting her out. I see you're cutting her short, but our precaution is our residents here, everybody in the community. You guys are not giving her the opportunity, and she's the only one that has the brightest ideas, and nobody's really listening to her. You guys are always talking about the safety of our community and our children and our seniors. Then us as a community need to take a precaution and stop and think about, oh, let's wait a week or so. No, we don't need to wait a week or so. In a week or so, there could be so many of our residents sick. Like, you talked about Santa Teresa. Have you talked to a Kaiser Ballroom Park to see what's going on?
We're definitely in contact with them. Yes.
Because to my knowledge, I heard there was people infected there.
You know what?
Okay,
No.
when is the last time that you talked to them?
This afternoon.
This afternoon?
This afternoon,
But
yes.
everything's happening hour by the hour.
I'm going to go ahead and continue on. I shouldn't be interrupting you, but go ahead.
Yes, because that's what you've been doing to this whole meeting. You've been interrupting her and trying to cut her short. But you got to agree with her. You talk about our safety in our city. Our children and the elders they're our main concern. It's spreading so quickly. Why are you going to wait a week or so? In a week or so, there's, like I said, you don't know where the fellow neighbor works at. They could work in LA. Monrovia was infected. You don't know where they're coming from, where they're working at. You got to stop and think about it. I would say suspend it for the day, see what happens over the weekend, and then on Monday you can continue business. But suspend it at least for a day tomorrow and see what happens. You don't know what's going to happen. Then Monday, if not, everything's fine, you continue. And then you just take it day by day and see what's going on. Why wait till Wednesday? You don't know what could happen Wednesday. So many could be affected. That is just what I want to say to our community. And that nobody's here from my community, but I want to speak up because I have children. I have an elderly mother who's very ill. I have family in Los Angeles. There's people infected there. So I came today and speak up because that's what I strongly agree.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, I want to go ahead and declare the public communication closed. So just to kind of summarize what was stated here is that we're going to allow assess and evaluate the following week. And it's important for us to make certain that we obviously don't jump to conclusions and don't panic. No, Kaiser has not had a case. There hasn't been a case in the neighboring cities as well. And we are doing our best as the local municipal government, just like the Unified School District and the water agencies, and of course our community comes first. That's important. We all live here, so we have a vested interest in the city of Baldwin Park. So at this point, I will go ahead and I know that legal counsel had suggested that a couple of things he would like to change or look at in the actual proclamation that we have here. So at this point, I'll give it over to our legal counsel, Mr. Tafoya.
Thank you, Mayor. As you can imagine, we were drafting this literally a few hours before we came, and there are some changes that I would like to suggest before you consider this proclamation. In the first paragraph, it says, whereas the City of Baldwin Park, County of Los Angeles, State of California empowers the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief of Police, or designee to proclaim the existence or threaten existence of a local emergency due to the novel coronavirus, period. And the rest of that sentence will be deleted. Then at the very last paragraph of page 1, the last two paragraphs that have a total of 4 sentences, it should now read that these conditions are beyond the control of the services, personnel, equipment, and facilities of the City of Baldwin Park, County of Los Angeles, period. The "and" would be taken out, and then the next paragraph would be removed as well. And those are my recommendations before you consider this proclamation.
All righty. Council members have any questions? If not, I will go ahead and make a motion to pass the local state of emergency due to come out on 19. So that is my motion.
Second.
Who seconded it? I don't sound like. Okay, it was Ms. Alejandra Avila. And any objections? Seen none, so moved. So the proclamation has been approved. All right. So at this point, council members have
Yes. I wanted to ask Manny Carrillo, what are the upcoming events? Like, what are the upcoming city events? We have the State of the City.
That's been
in terms of large events where we're going to have approximately 250 and more, we have the State of the City on Thursday, March 26th, and I think right now that's probably on a wait and see for next week, how that's going to proceed. And then we have our Easter egg hunt, which is and brunch, which is a Saturday before Easter, and I believe that's the 15th or 16th of April on that Saturday. And those are the two large events that I could think of for the next 30 days.
We
or so.
also have the job fair next week, but
Yes.
we expect to announce the postponement of that on Monday. That does draw a large crowd, and we actually had a few of the vendors that are attending are pulling out of that too. So expect to see that canceled Monday.
I would like to postpone the
at
State of the
this point, so will that be postponed? Is that what we're doing?
The job fair?
Yes, the job fair. So
Yes.
and let's go ahead.
And the State of the City
Excuse
as
me,
well?
I have the mic. So what we'll do is go ahead and postpone, as she stated, the State of the City as well. There's no need to have that. Save the money there.
Mayor, can you
Yes.
possibly do that on TV, on Spectrum Channel, maybe still?
Sure,
instead of
you and I will be there.
No, just you. No, seriously, a lot of
I know, I'm
people,
just kidding. Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
we
of
will.
people watch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we've
So
talked
you
about
can still do it.
Well,
we've talked about filming it and live streaming
Yes.
it,
Live
and then
stream
we
it on
can
Facebook
replay it on
and
our.
Spectrum.
I'll say hi to all you guys.
Mayor, I do have.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Monica Garcia. Vice Mayor Hernandez.
Appreciate that. Just for clarification for everyone's audience, next week, it's my understanding that we will have Kaiser here doing a presentation.
Awesome.
So if you're concerned and you want to listen more about what's happening, come to the council next week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that will be a presentation at 7 p.m. for the Kaiser. Am I correct?
I believe so, right?
Okay, Kaiser thrives. Thank you.
And if I could add, Mayor, anybody who's interested in listening to the council meetings, you can do that also from home, streaming on the internet. If you don't want to come sit here, you're welcome to come, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knows
As an
that
option. As an option. All right. Okay,
And
so
Mayor,
yes,
I
Councilmember.
still had some more questions. Okay, so for the events, the special events that are coming up in the next week, that, because I guess we're going to take up this conversation at the next council meeting.
Yes.
So what are the events that are coming up that would be like, let's say even like 15, 25 people or more?
We have billiards in the mornings, 7 a.m. till about 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and we had about 20 folks, 20 members today. We usually have a little bit more, maybe 40ish. And in ping pong, I found it interesting that we traditionally have about 50 ping pong participants. Today we had about a dozen, maybe a little bit more. So they're self-regulating,
Okay.
or being a little bit more selective. I saw a lot of people sitting sitting under the picnic shelter a little bit more than usual, considering the weather today. So maybe they just wanted some fresh air.
So billiards, ping pong, and...
Yes, in regards to the summer lunch or to the lunch program, we have about 50 to 75. And on
Daily basis.
On a daily basis. On a great day, it's 100. But I would say today we had about 62-ish, give or take a dozen.
That's all? Or are there more?
There's a few others. Let's see. On Tuesdays, we have bingo. We'll have about 40 participants in one of the rooms. And then we have a few other courses, ESL classes, jewelry making, and some other courses offered through the Baldwin Park Unified School District Adult School. And they have about maybe a dozen students. We have aquatics, and they have about 50 students, maybe in the pool, maybe not all at one time, but 50 throughout a few hours. And then we have a weight room, and we have about a dozen to 20 participants lifting weights and doing some cardio. And I think that kind of captures most.
Yeah. So I would say like some of those programs are non-essential, right? I mean, they're great programs, and I'm so glad that we offer them. But those are the ones that I would consider non-essential. So if you could start, kind of breaking down. I mean, I would even say like the swimming. Do we really need to have the swim class?
You have some hardcore people that the mentioning of those different. I mean, I've been there. They take that very serious.
I don't doubt that, and I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying that we should cancel any of these programs. I'm just saying, like suspending them for 2 weeks, right? I don't think that it's gonna. I don't think it's going to have a serious impact on the quality of life of our seniors if we suspend it for 2 weeks,
So at this point, we're going to assess it and evaluate in the following week. Am I
Right,
correct? Okay.
yeah. But I would say, those are the type of non-essential. I mean, the essential would be the food delivery, right? Having food delivered. But some of these others, I would consider that they are non-essential. So I would just ask that we start thinking about that. For the next council meeting, and be ready to make decisions around that.
Sounds good.
One thing
Yes,
I would also
Vice Mayor.
suggest is, if something does change between now and next week, Shannon does have the authority now
Yes.
to make the immediate changes effective immediately. So,
I have another
Will
question.
be
Yes. Go ahead.
For Manny, are we still, for the rental facilities, are you still scheduling events right now? So if someone was to come in tomorrow and schedule an event for 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, are you still scheduling those events, or what are you doing with that?
Well, we most of our large scale events transpire on a Saturday or Sunday, and it's safe to say most, if not all, Saturdays are booked up for the remainder of the year.
So let's say we would have to cancel all these events. Are you going to reimburse the people that
Yeah, we'd have to discuss that at the executive management level to explore all options. We do have a refund policy, and there's some guidelines in there, but we'd
This
have
one
to,
would be a special circumstance, obviously.
yes. I think it would only be fair to refund participants all of their monies in regards to rental reservations.
Okay.
I agree with that, and what we talked about, the rentals that are going on this weekend, we're not going to cancel those. Obviously, people have things planned. They're, for the most part, private parties. But Monday, we're going to reassess, and, depending on what the state is and what the governor is saying and what the health department is saying, we may have to cancel some of those, but, we only have to looking at those canceling a week or two out. We don't have to cancel the rest of the year. So it's just playing it by ear. Every week is a little different, and we'll make our decision. But I would recommend we do reimburse people their money.
Yeah, and I think part of it, as we mentioned earlier, it's all assessing and evaluating from here next week, and who knows what will transpire tomorrow as far as changes throughout the state as well. So at this point, unless council members have any other further questions?
I would just ask,
Yes.
okay, when are we going to communicate this action to our residents? And how are we going to communicate this action? Are we going to package it? Like, what is the plan?
So David Vela is listening right now. He will be preparing a press release. He'll probably run it by me tonight if he has it ready, and we'll send it out first thing in the morning, and then put it on all of our social media.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then if I could suggest, like the resident mentioned, Ralph Galvan, maybe we can get a quote, not only from the city on why we did this, but perhaps a quote from the water agency and the school district, and then we could follow that same format for our newsletter. And I think we can talk about that on Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. At this point, council members wishing to share any other information? If not, at this point, I will declare the special city council member adjourned. That is my motion.
Second.
Second, any objections? Seeing none, so move. Viva Ballroom Park.
Thank you. Directors, if I could meet with you real quick in the conference room here, we'll just go over a couple things for follow-up.